People who live rurally, what's the scariest experience you've had that you can't explain? This isn't a super scary experience or anything, but at the time, I was like 10 or so, it was pretty unnerving. So I was staying with my grandparents who lived pretty much in the middle of nowhere, and a dude knocked on their door. He asked for directions to town, but they lived on a dead-end road where the only way to get up there is to come from town, so he obviously knew where it was. They then pointed in the direction he needed to go, and then he said thanks. But instead of getting back into his car, he just ran off into the woods as fast as he could. They called the cops but they never found him, so we have no clue what happened. He left his car in their driveway and never came back for it. Oh man, have I got a story for y'all. Stick around until the ending though. My family and I once lived back in some of my family's woods. No one could see our little plot, just woods all around. My family lived nearby but down the dirt road away. We had no light poles put up, so it would get very dark back there. I started to notice a light above the trees. I figured out it was not a star because it would sway, rise quickly, totally disappear, descend behind the trees. This went on for a few days and I was the only one who had seen it. My dad hired some guys to help him with a deck. My husband sort of knew one and would invite him to dinner after they worked. That light always seemed to get closer when that guy was there. It was even at tree level often. I knew this because I could see the light behind the trees, obviously not in the sky. I showed it to my husband, kids, and the guy. Not mentioning it earlier in case I was crazy. My daughter decided to play with it. She said, "Follow me if you're an alien." Then she walked to the left, and it went to the left. She went right and it did too. She went right again, it followed. That freaked me the hell out. The guy was so freaked out that he left, and the light followed him. It freaking followed him as he left. I edited to add this. I should also say that this man lived in the woods behind us. So it was easy to see the light descend to where he lived. He wasn't very far from us at all, just separated by woods. For about 4 days, that light would follow that man when he left. I thought he was about to get abducted by aliens. I would stare out the window, peering into the darkness for hours because I feared missing a Mel Gibson's Signs birthday party-like moment that would verify my fears. One night the man did not come. The light was still there, freaking me out. I had just about lost my mind at this point, worried about my kids being abducted by aliens. I yelled at it. "What's your problem, huh? What do you want?" It was following me, walking as I lost my shit. I ended up flipping it the bird and it seemed to dive towards me. I kid you not, in that moment, I thought I had pissed the aliens off and they were about to crash into me. Then it disappeared during the time I had my back to it, running for my life. I told my father what was going on. His response was, "Are you on crack?" I got irate and had to explain that, no, I was not on crack. He gave me a shotgun and told me to just shoot it down next time I saw it. If it is real. It only came back when that man came back and it left when he left. I did not shoot it down because I figured a shotgun would just piss off aliens. Never saw it again and lived in fear of aliens in the dark woods for the rest of our stay there. Years later, I was reading local news and stumbled across an article that explained the lights. It was an article about how the local cops used drones to catch drug dealers and other nefarious folks. My jaw dropped. I was about 21 when all that happened and more naive than I am now. Also, this was back before drones were so popular and well known, especially for someone who didn't really use the internet much during that time. I remembered how not long after completing the deck, that man who was visiting us was arrested for drug charges and some other stuff involving the Mexican mafia, as it was called. We were pretty shocked because we figured he was just a regular old drug dealer, which we don't have an issue with. Mafia stuff though, we didn't like that being near our kids. So I spent a portion of my life terrified of aliens when it was more than likely the police using drones. Whoever was manning the drone was probably bored and decided to mess with us. Or they didn't want the guy or us to catch on, so they went with making us believe they were aliens. or they were actually aliens and I came up with a reason that my brain can handle better. If it was cops and I had shot it like my father told me to, I would probably still be in prison today. So glad I didn't do that. In Cozumel, MX, I was in a truck driving through a totally uninhabited area driving to a beach and saw some creepy ass thing that looked like a stick figure drawing with a giant head cross the road in front of me and run into the jungle. I've looked up probably every animal that inhabits that island and I still have no fucking clue what it was. I don't live there anymore, but none of my friends who still do have any clue. WTF, it was based on my drawings of what I saw. Any ideas? It ran on its hind legs, looked like a stick figure with a huge head and was all black and darted off into the jungle when it saw our truck. Stick figure thing. I grew up on a ranch, in a small, old California ranch house. Lots of windows to stay cool on the summer, almost all the rooms open to the central living room. I was probably 14, my brother was 11, and my mom was out that night running an errand. Brother and I are together in the living room. He's sitting by the stove and I'm lying on the sofa, we're both doing homework. Inside the lights are on, but through the windows it's pitch black. As I'm reading I hear footsteps on the mud porch leading up the front door. It's an old house, and I hear the heavy footsteps clearly. But I hadn't seen my mom's car drive in. I hadn't seen or heard any car. It's the country. I would have heard a car approaching and seen their headlights through the dark windows. But there was nothing, just the footsteps on the porch. They stop at the front door, but no one knocks. I am frozen. If I had gotten up and looked around the corner through the kitchen, I would have seen the owner of the footsteps standing at the door, which had a window. But then they would have seen me. If I talk to my brother, they'll hear me. And in the dark, anyone could be looking through the windows at us, but we couldn't see out. I go through all my options. The person is standing at the only door in or out of the house, which is always unlocked. If I go to the kitchen to grab a knife, they will see me and know I see them. We can't hide, the house is too small and they'll see where we go. My heart is racing. My best option is to pretend I don't know for as long as I can, and be ready for whatever comes next. But after a few minutes, I don't hear any more footsteps. I calm down. I might have just imagined it. 20 minutes later I hear my mom's car and see the headlights go across the windows. I run outside, because I'm still a child and I want my mother to know how scared I am. But before I can tell her she asks me, who left the water on? And I'm terrified again. We had this weird water spigot in the front yard, with a pole that shot up to about waist height and a spigot turned up instead of down. My brother and I would treat it like a drinking fountain or turn it on full blast and play under it like a fountain. When she got home the water was on, full blast, shooting several feet up into the air. Someone had been there that night, on our porch. They saw my brother and I, alone, no car in the drive. They didn't come in, but they wanted us to know they could have. My wife and I were staying at a cabin in a rural town in the mountains. Around 8 p.m., an air raid siren, fire maybe, rang out for quite a while. We joked that it might be a zombie apocalypse, and after a while we actually got a little nervous that we didn't know what it was for. So I put on my coat and pots and walked down the road to a small grocery store nearby. Went in, asked if they knew what the siren was for. They said, "What siren?" And when I went back outside the siren was gone. So there was this trail where it was cool if people skinny dipped at the end of a hike. I was hiking alone and wanted to hang out by the stream as it was a hot summer day. I decided it'd be nice to take a quick dip before I continued hiking. I looked for a spot where there was no people. I saw some sunbathing down the trail, so I purposefully went upstream a bit to be alone. When I was downstream there was a lone man on the trail, so I stepped off to let him pass, but I thought he had went on. I found a private alcove and stripped, got in the water, and to my horror the guy reappears about a foot behind me butt naked and tried to start a conversation. I said something and quickly got out and got dressed. Never hiked so fast in my life out of there. No cell service either, but everything in my body told me I was in danger. I was about 3 miles from my car. I was driving a friend home at around midnight one night down this lone country road between the villages we lived in. We got to this small bridge and I could see a small cloud-like thing slowly moving across the road as we approached. A bit of fog, I thought, pretty standard stuff. As we drove through it, the fog actually went through the car rather than us through it, and I jumped a mile. My friend wasn't paying attention to the road, but he also agrees that he saw this fog pass right in between the two of us and out the back, and to this day I can't explain it. When I was young I used to live a fair way out from town, about 50 kilometers to the nearest store, so we never saw people. When I was about 11 my mum left me home alone for a couple days while she went to equine show. All fine West Andy, I was happy. Got to stay up late playing video games. Anyway, 1 AM rolls around and I head to my room to get ready for bed. I flick on my light and out my window in the pitch darkness I somehow see a tall 7-foot human shadow walk past my window. It was as dark as the night outside, but somehow I could see it outlined in the darkness. The veranda outside was old and rickety, it would creak and groan when a 20 kilograms dog walked on it, but this thing moved completely silently. It didn't stop or look in my window when the light came on, just walked casually by like it didn't even notice. The direction it was walking, it would walk off the veranda into the horse stables and trigger the auto lights, never triggered the lights. Either way, it scared the living shit out of me. I panicked as a kid does and tried to call Mum. Couldn't get her on the phone. So I camped in the living room inside a blanket fort with dogs for safety. My wife, kids, and I live in 30 miles or so outside of town on 100 acres. The house sits half a mile off the main road. My wife wanted the works for security when we got the place, so I did a gate, driveway doorbell past the gate, cameras at the gate and at the house, alarm system, 2 new puppies, you name it. I've always lived way out my whole life, so I'm used to the hog squeals, coyote screams, deer huffing, all that jazz. One night around 2 AM I heard a loud shatter and instantly it was covered by the alarm siren for the house. The main keypad is in our bedroom and I look to see the glass break sensor in our son's bedroom has tripped. I thinking the worst, grab a shotgun kept for rattlesnakes and run to his bedroom hollering for my wife to grab our youngest from his crib just in case. I hear my oldest son screaming, I'm shaking so violently I can barely turn the doorknob. My adrenaline fight response has completely taken over. I throw the door open, let out a war cry trying to intimidate a would-be intruder, and my son is clinging to the crib rails and glass is all over the floor. I can just feel the cold winter air snapping through the room. I shut his bedroom door behind me, grab him up, and frantically check the bathroom, his closet, anywhere in the area I thought the intruder would be. I yell for my wife again. Living this far out, we have a system if someone is ever in the house and one of us knows but we don't want to alert the intruder, she gives a response indicating she's alone still and okay. I take my son to my wife and hand her the shotgun, telling her I'll grab the rifle and check around inside and out. I grab a flashlight and my rifle, I scan the entire house, I walk outside and hit the auto lock on the deadbolt. I quickly make my way around to the back side of the house to the busted window. My adrenaline has started coming down and I'm logically telling myself it had to have been a deer, right? Saw his reflection bucked the window broke. That's got to be it. I checked high and low all around the house and never found any indication to what it was. I checked the cameras and couldn't find anything around the house at that time either. I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. It took a few weeks for me to let my son sleep in his own bedroom again. I'm positive it was just a deer attacking his reflection. But I've always wondered if someone broke the window and heard the siren and immediately ran. Now, there was a blind spot watching that particular window. I've installed more cameras since the incident and I have one that points down each side of the house just to watch windows and entrances. Motion sensing floodlights on all 4 corners, and my favorite, one of our pups sleeps right beside his bed every night. We live in a densely forested area, borderline rainforest in the US Northwest. The land we built our modest house on has no known history of being previously lived on, though Native Americans may have previous to white colonization. Our experience has primarily been with cats. But these cats are not living. We began seeing a few different ones over the past 15 years. Sightings come in spurts, we will have several experiences then nothing for months. The cats are usually sitting on the toilet, near the bathroom sink, walking/scampering quickly into or out of the bedrooms or out the front door. Once, my daughter has her teen friends over and 3 of them saw a black and white cat come out from the bedroom and run under a chair at the table they were sitting at. At least 9 people have seen them. They are orange, beige, black and white. One time my mother was visiting and while she was talking we heard 2 disembodied meows, about seconds apart. My one and only live cat was asleep on my lap at the time. My daughter and I have both felt an unseen cat run up against our legs while standing at the bathroom sink. We keep our live cat's food and water in the bathroom. Our live cat is an orange Manx who is a 100% indoor boy. He has a short tail, the orange ghost cats has a normal tail. We have never owned any of these spectral cats, but we suspect they were area cats who met a bad end with dogs, coyotes, or worse. Another one. I grew up on a small island with a small population and lots of uninhabited areas. I loved to go on night walks when I was in high school because everywhere felt safe. One night when I was on the road, ahead of me underneath a street lamp was a figure in a black cloak covering their whole body except for their face which was eerily white and illuminated. I felt something was terribly wrong and unreality hit me hard, but I kept walking forward. I had a feeling almost like the world was spinning in front of me, but felt compelled to keep walking. As I got close to the figure, they got on all fours and moved off into the brush. I still feel terrible chills when I remember it. I have no idea what the hell that thing was. I live alone in the woods 15 minutes from my town. My neighbors are near but not right next door. One summer morning I woke around 4:30 a.m. to a strange pounding sound. It was still kind of dusky dawn lighting and I was in a daze from just waking up. Then I started to hear a man's voice yelling, "Somebody help me." I began to look out my windows to see if I could see anyone but couldn't from upstairs. My home has no window coverings on any windows. I went downstairs and caught a glimpse of him, naked with a thin t-shirt on, running around my house trying to jiggle windows and doors. He was very erratic, kept screaming for someone to help him, and kept running from door to window all around trying to find a way in. In any normal situation, I would gladly help someone in need. But this situation felt too unpredictable and dangerous for me to allow this person into my home. I was able to contact my neighbors who got my message and quickly made their way over to help me. This is faster than any police that can get here. The guy ran away straight into the trees before they arrived. He was picked up by our CMP shortly after. No idea what happened there.
In this little shop of horrors, that's how we get down. Yeah, enter, the projects on the prairie, scary. Greet you at the gate with Bloody Marys. Blood, a rail full of blood. Back to the cemetery, get more blood. Standing on the grave, drinking blood, smoking bones. We seen a crew of ghouls running by with stolen tombstones. With Hell's Angels on the chase, they lust to bust a black skull. Want you embrace, they tie you up in chains and they stomp on your face. They go to purgatory and they beat the fucking case. I look around, man.